Are you an Ableton music producer always complaining about your music career? Like, oh, well, then you need these free tips from Robbie Burns immediately. Now, he's a Scottish poet and songwriter and an absolute hero, born in 1759. He grew up in pretty much absolute poverty, labouring on his father's farm, a world away from the literature and musical circles he wanted to be part of. But he never gave up on his dream, and his story of resilience, freedom, and upward mobility against all odds is going to help you as a music maker, even in the modern day. And he even wrote the second most famous song in the world ever, Auld Lang Syne, sung commonly at Hogmanay and New Year's Eve events around the world. And you trying to guess what the first most famous song in the world ever? Happy birthday. So he's an amazing guy. Let's get into how he can help you. So tip 1, stop crying and banish your reaction to haters forever. Because you're going to come across critics and haters online when you do anything, and in real life as well. So how do you banish that feeling of like, oh, now Robbie Burns was not a fan of them either. Here's a quote from him. Critics, appalled I ventured on the name, those cutthroat bandits in the paths of fame. So he describes them as cutthroat bandits, and he kind of said that you need to sort of be resilient to this, essentially. And when you think about it, a lot of critics quite often, you know, wish they were making the stuff you were making, but yet they're just sitting there writing about it or talking about it on the internet or commenting about it. They often wish they had the courage to put themselves out there and make stuff like you are. So Robbie Burns wasn't a fan of them. He also said, suspicion is a heavy armor. With its weight, it impedes more than it actually protects. So if you're suspicious and kind of fearful and paranoid all the time, it actually is going to stop you more than it's going to help you. So you need to banish these thoughts of worrying about what people think, worrying about what haters are going to say online, worrying about critics, and move on to the next best thing. So this next tip is kind of 2 in 1 because it's one quote, but I think it features 2 cool things. And it's how daring honesty and playing the long game can make you win in your music rather than going for short-term streams or success. So let's take the quote first. Dare to be honest and fear no labor is the quote from Robbie Burns. So talking about honesty and authenticity. Sometimes, you've probably heard this a million times in music career advice, be authentic, be authentic. And it's sometimes hard to process what that actually means, but it means being honest, being true to yourself and saying things that you feel, but maybe don't say, or you think other people feel as well, but aren't expressing. If you can get that out in your music, whether it's sort of in a musical way, if it's instrumental pieces or with words, literally, mate, that is the way to really dig deep into what you're feeling and express it. Music's about communication. And there's a few other quotes from Robbie Burns about doing things honestly. Here's one. Here's freedom to him who would read. Here's freedom to him who would write. None ever feared that the truth should be heard. So basically, I think he's saying the best writers are not afraid to share the truth of situations. So you gotta be daring. Basically, if you're going to put some music out and you feel scared about doing it, like, have I said too much here? That's a good thing. That is a good thing. Or if it's instrumental, you're like, is that too much? Like, that's probably a good thing too. And he also said, dear sir, I'll give you some advice. You tack it no uncivil. You shouldn't paint at angels, man, but try and paint the devil. So should not paint at angels, but try and paint the devil. How cool and rock and roll is that quote? Basically saying, don't look up to, like, you know, the hallowed beauties and kind of almost things that, you know, like kind of things that are like too perfect. Why not talk about the things in real life? Talk about the things that are going on in the back streets, you know, in behind closed doors, stuff like that, because that's what people can relate to. So in tip 2, this is about being honest and authentic, really important. But let's go back to the quote for tip 2, part B. He says, fear no labor. Dare to be honest and fear no labor. And I think fear no labor is to do with like worth ethic and the long game. Because, you know, you got to be in this for the long game. And, you know, when you're obsessed with music and love it so much, you know, you're not going to get bored of it. It doesn't feel like work, but you've got to be in this, not just to be like, oh, in 1 month I'm going to put out a track, it gets 1 million streams, or you know, it's possible that could happen like in a viral moment, but even viral moments fade fast. So like what you should be doing is just trying to enjoy the process of learning, you know, have failures and be like, that's okay, I've learned from that, move on to the next thing, and always looking forward to the next thing, whilst, you know, patting yourself on the back when you do get something cool that happens, even if it's small, like your first gig or your first 100 streams or stuff like that. So I think fear no labor, because sometimes it feels like work. Sometimes you probably would be rather sitting watching Netflix, like, oh, have you seen that true crime thing on Netflix? Wasting hours, like 8 hours watching a series back to back, when you could have put at least some of those hours into music production and making music. So yeah, fear no labor. Try and change your habits from just constantly being a consumer of content, whether it's on Netflix or YouTube or whatever, and going to actually do the actual thing you said you want to do, which is make music. And that's why usually I round off these podcasts with like, close YouTube and go make some music now. YouTube probably hate me for that. But anyway, so that is part 2. We're going to get on to part 3 in a second. If you've watched it this far, I want to help you even more for your music. It's time to kill your I'm not done with it yet syndrome. I want you to finally finish and release your music on a label in only 10 simple steps, delivered to you over 10 free emails. And I guarantee this thing that I'm trying to offer you here, even though it's a freebie, I guarantee it, if you follow these 10 steps and don't get the result of your finished track, I'll meet you on Zoom for free, one-to-one coaching session to get your track just over the edge and finished. So you actually can't lose. You can't lose. And not doing this is probably going to lock you in procrastination hell forever, by the way. I don't want that for you. So after 7 years and 7 compilations of student music released on my label, Tonic Note Records, I know this works. And that's why I'm comfortable to offer such a kind of crazy guarantee. But I can only offer 10 of these free guides a month. So you got to sign up now below. Click in the bio and the link below in the description, and that's your chance to finally finish that track. So click below for that freebie, and hopefully it helps you out 100% free as a gift, just to say thanks for watching this far. Let's get into the 3rd tip. Let's go. So are you always complaining about your music career, like, oh, whinging? Then you need to hear this immediately. This is from Robert Burns from Epitaph to a Friend, and he said, if there's another world, he lives in bliss. If there's none, he made the best of this. So that's kind of in Scots a little bit. If there's another world, he lives in bliss. If there's none, he made the best of this. So it is an epitaph to a friend. So a friend of his that had passed away. And I think it's beautiful because it kind of questions, is there another world or not? And if there's not, he's like, he still made the best of this life. So stop your complaining about the music industry, or I don't have this equipment, or I don't have that. You have to use what you've got. There's no excuse, okay? Use what you've got and try and be grateful for the steps forward you make and the chances that you do have rather than what you don't have, and made the best of this. So that is 100% my recommendation. You've got to try and make the best of things in your music and be grateful for what equipment you do have, using it to the best of your ability. You know, so I've had people start on iPads and make amazing tunes. Stuff like that, just whatever you've got, whatever you can get your hands on, secondhand gear, just be appreciative of what you do have. Because I think on YouTube, especially, there's this whole gear fetishization that I am sick of, to be honest, that is literally just shoveling new gear at you constantly. It actually makes me sick. Like, part of this huge marketing machine to make you feel that you can never be good enough because you'll always have to buy the next thing. I'm just saying it. I'm calling it out here for what it is. Do not fall into that trap of, I need this new gear, I need this new synth, I need this new plugin. It is complete. You just need to use what you've got to express yourself as an artist. And I'll probably get slaughtered for saying this. And I'm not going to name any names of channels because, I'm not punching to anyone directly, but you must know what I'm talking about if you're watching this. This whole ecosystem on YouTube of gear drop videos from manufacturers who are just trying to sell you the latest thing when you've probably got something like it already. And I hate to say this because I love synths and stuff, but I've been through this mill and I've actually, in terms of my music, felt like, I'll never be good enough because I don't have this or don't have that. But Rick Rubin put it, you have everything you've got no excuse, you've got to use the best you can. And all my artist research I've done, they've always been like that. They've just started with almost nothing and came through and created the most incredible art. And Robert Burns is an amazing example of that. He grew up on a farm that switched around a few times. Only him, his dad and his brothers and the rest of his family worked on it. It was like terrible land for farming. He was basically in poverty. He was lucky enough that his dad did have some money to get him a tutor and prioritized that over buying other things. So that's how he got educated. And he would even, paper was even a luxury to write down his ideas. So he had to use his memory to think up his poems and songs and keep them in his memory. And sometimes he might scrawl it down on a bit of slate. So Robert Burns is the epitome of this, using what you've got, you and whatever you have around you to make the best of this. And I don't know if I've said too much here, but I'm gonna share this anyway because maybe someone needs to hear this, and you can do it and put your the best work you can out, and just do the best work you can at this moment, and then you're going to get better and better. And who knows, you might make some money, you might be able to invest in bits of gear and cool things that are fun. And I get it, but don't get trapped in the oppressive ecosystem bubble of pushing you down, telling you always need the latest thing. All right. So thanks so much for watching this far. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video about Robert Burns. And at this end of podcast waffle, as is the tradition, I will catch you later. And you know what? I'm actually scared to put this one out myself. But like I said earlier in the podcast, if you're scared to put something out and worried about it, it probably means it's a good thing. So I'm going to do it anyway and deal with the backlash later. But I already know how to deal with the critics because Robert Burns told me in our first point. So enjoy your whiskey, enjoy your synths. Maybe time to close YouTube and get on the music making. Catch you later. Bye. Whiskey.